There's another objection that these guys might make is that, I don't trust the system of isnad. We'll look at the system of isnad and let you make that decision yourself if you trust it or not, inshallah. Method 3. Right, what was method 3? The Sunnah explains the Quran. 2 verses, inshallah. Don't be scared. 1 slide, inshallah. That was the bulk of all the stuff that we talked about. Those major ayahs there. There's still 5 more coming up though. So the Sunnah is a clarification of the Quran. How so? We already talked about this ayah, but we'll talk about it again. Allah will explain the Quran. This is the same thing. Surah Al-Qiyamah that I just recited. Inna alayna jam'ahu wa qur'ana. We will gather the Quran and we will have it recited. فَإِذَا قَرَأْنَاهُ فَاتَّبِعْ قُرْآنَ. When we recite the Quran to you, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, follow that recitation. Do the same recitation to the people, exactly, verbatim. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam doesn't add a single word from his side for Quran. Then, when you recite Quran to the people, ثُمَّ إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا بَيَانًا. We will do the bayan of it. Allah will do the bayan of the Quran. But how does Allah explain the Quran outside of the Quran? It's not like Allah talks to us directly. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the conduit through which that information reaches people. And in another ayah, we already did this as well. بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَالزُّبُرِ وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. We sent Anbiya with clear signs and scriptures. We've sent down the message to you too, O Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so you can explain to people what was sent for them so that they may reflect. Here Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala says, we sent down the dhikr, which is the Quran. Why do we send down the Quran to you, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? So that you may explain to people what was already revealed to them. Quran was already revealed to them, and then you may explain it to them. Right? So Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala is saying that He will explain the Quran through Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So this is Allah's explanation of the Quran. Now again, the whole point is, the Quran is supposed to be a book of Hidayah. Even those who deny the Sunnah, they say the Quran is a preserved book of Hidayah meant for all generations. If that is true, then the Quran will be distorted without the Hadith, because you're taking away the bayan and the explanation of the Quran. So you need that Hadith. Okay, now let's look at some examples, inshallah, how the Hadith explains the Quran. I gave you some examples before. Here are some more. Allah says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Establish salah. Some people, is like a joke. I don't know if this actually happened. One of our teachers told us. I think it actually did happen. I don't know who said it. Some guy came up to a scholar. He used to deny Hadith, this guy, not the scholar. So he came to the scholar and he said that Allah says, أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Establish salah. Salah has many meanings. One meaning is to be thrown into a fire. One meaning is tahriku silawain. Silawain is like a person's hips, to move the hips. It is from salah yaslu, or one of those variations of the word that salah can be taken from. Allah says, establish the salah. So every morning I move my hips, I go for a power walk. So my salah is done. This is the nonsense that these people who deny the sunnah, this is the nonsense that they make. Oh, salah means this. Allah says, establish the salah. You have no precedent, you have no sunnah, you have nothing to explain it, and there's no explanation in the Quran. So what do? You just make your own explanation. So what Islam do you have? Right? So Allah says, aqimu salah, fajr, dhuhr, all of those salahs, witr. What are they? How are they done? How many rak'ahs? What are the du'as? What are the postures? All those details are only found in the sunnah, hadith. You find none of it in the Quran. Just, basics in the Quran. Number 2, wa'atu zakah. Allah says, give zakah. What is zakah? Literally, zakah means purity. So my heart is pure. I give purity all the time. So I gave zakah. Yeah, I could do that. But what kind of Islam is that? Everyone knows zakat is a certain thing that you give as one of the 5 pillars. But where do you get the 5 pillars from? Hadith. If you deny hadith, you deny Islam, basically. The Quran becomes a toy thing, a plaything. Just use it the way whatever you want. You require hadith. 2.5%, all the details, who must give, who doesn't have to give, who do you give to, the details regarding that, all of that is in the hadith. Kutiba alaykum as-siyam, Allah says you have to fast. So siyam means to abstain. So I abstain from khamar and wine, but I engage in burgers. So that's the siyam of khamar. That's not going to work. You find the details in the hadith. Allah says, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ جُنُوبًا فَطَّهَّرُوا. If you're impure, then fully purify yourselves. What is junub? What does that mean? What is janaba? Major ritual impurity. Junub just means like, strange. Ajnabi. So this all comes from the hadith. These ayahs would mean nothing if you don't have explanation. Like, what is it? What does that mean? If you're junuban, what is junuban? وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ. It is incumbent upon people to perform the pilgrimage of the house for Allah. So what is this pilgrimage of the house for Allah? You just go visit the Kaaba, wave at it, and go home? You do tawaf, but how do you do the tawaf? What about all the other aspects? None of that is in the Quran. وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ is the ayah. Those who hoard gold and silver, they will be punished in the fire of Jahannam. So now Allah says, if you do kanz of gold and silver, meaning you hoard it. What does that mean? Hoarding gold and silver. You're going to be punished in the fire of Jahannam. So we don't find any tafsir of that or we don't have explanation in the Quran itself. You have to look at the hadith. These are all examples. There's so many examples. وَأَن تَجْمَعُوا بَيْنَ الْأُخْتَيْنِ إِلَّا مَا قَدْ سَلَفَ. Allah says one should not combine between two sisters in marriage. So a man can marry 4 women in Islam. He cannot, however, marry 2 sisters at the same time. Yes, if one sister is divorced or one sister passes away, he can marry his wife's sister, but he cannot join the two. So Allah says that very clearly. But now, does this apply to a woman and her aunt or not? So this only, you get the masail like this in the hadith. Aunt is considered a sister as well, so you get tafsir of that in the hadith. You cannot marry an aunt and her niece together at the same time. And this is all in the hadith. And the last one, اليوم أحل لكم الطيبات. Today I have made halal wholesome for you. Now what is طيبات? Allah says, I made طيبات halal. What is طيب? طيب means something pure. So the tafsir of that is found in the hadith. There's small examples, but there's so many that you cannot understand the Quran without the Sunnah. It's literally the tafsir of the Quran and much more. It also talks about issues that are not mentioned in the Quran. Right? A person asked me that, is Isa alayhi salam going to come back? Like, inshallah. He was like, no. I was like, what do you mean no? He's like, it's not in the Quran. I was like, so? It's in the hadith. He's like, no, the hadith you follow when it matches the Quran. I was like, where'd you get that from? He started mentioning some scholar's name. I was like, okay, leave the scholar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوا وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Whatever the Nabi of Allah tells you to take, you take it. Whatever he says no, then you don't take it. So we have the hadith. So he says Isa alayhi salam is coming back. So he's coming back, inshallah. It's not as authentic hadith too. It's not like some da'if, weak hadith. It's authentic hadith. Isa alayhi salam is coming back. Sahih Muslim.